each of you is very special to him, and your presence today adds to the joy of this very special occasion. There are many people he would like to specifically recognize, so let me start first with some of the members of some of the people on the stage. First, Judge Pulliam's fiancée, Yvonne Neary. United States Senator John Cornyn and his wife, Mrs. Sandy Cornyn. United States Congressman Will Hurd. Former United States Congressman and former chair of the Texas Railroad Commission and Chancellor Emeritus of the Texas Tech University, Kent Hance. United States Marshal of the Western District of Texas, Susan Pomerleau. And present in the audience is Archbishop Gustavo Garcia Siet of the Archdiocese of San Antonio. Now next, I'd like to introduce many judges, other than the federal judges who've been introduced, many judges, elected officials, and dignitaries who are present today. And I ask that these dignitaries please stand as I either call your name or your office, and then be seated. And I ask the audience to please hold your applause until all of these many dignitaries have been introduced. First, we have the United States Attorney for the Western District of Texas, John Bash. And then we have the Honorable Steve Allison, member of the Texas House of Representatives. Now for the following offices, please all current and former members, please stand. And let me start with the Texas Supreme Court and the Court of Criminal Appeals. Thank you. The Texas Court of Appeals Justices, specifically those on the Fourth Court of Appeals where Judge Pulliam served for a couple of years. And won't you please stand, my colleagues? Thank you. The Texas District Court judges, Texas County Court judges, members of the San Antonio City Council, members of the Bexar County Commissioners Court, Bexar County District Attorneys, Justices of the Peace, all municipal court judges, all associate judges, and any San Antonio city attorneys, current or former. Now for members of the Board of Trustees of our school boards, members of the Federal Judicial Evaluation Committee, and members of the Investiture Committee. There's a number of you here. And now I'd like to introduce the family members and ask them to stand. The family members of Jason Pulliam, and I know his mother is here from New York, along with his cousin, and the family members of Yvonne Neary. Thank you for being here. And finally, would all members of the military, both active and veteran, please stand because we want to thank you for your service. To help today's event possible. And again, on behalf of Judge Pulliam, I want to thank all of you for being here with us today.
We have several speakers. Senator Cruz could not be present, but he has some remarks that be offered by video.
I want to welcome the members of the judiciary in attendance today. The circuit, the district, the bankruptcy courts, state court judges, members of the legal profession, and the many other distinguished guests and friends in attendance today. Above all, I'd like to say what a pleasure it is to congratulate Jason on the occasion of his formal investiture. Jason has an outstanding record of public service to our nation and the state of Texas. He has served our country in the Marine Corps as a Judge Advocate General, as he served the state of Texas as both a trial court and an appellate court judge. And I'm confident that Jason will continue to exercise principled and fair jurisprudence on the Western District Court while upholding the Constitution and enforcing the rule of law. I was glad to join with John Cornyn in recommending Jason to the President for this position. The people of the Western District of Texas, and all Americans, will be well served by Judge Pulliam's professionalism, his experience, and his commitment to the Constitution. Thank you, Jason, for your willingness to serve. Thank you for answering the call. And I hope that you and your family enjoy the rest of the day. God bless you. God bless Texas.
Again, I'd like to mention Senator Cornyn, the senior senator from Texas. In this community, we owe a great deal to Senator Cornyn. One, for filling all our judicial vacancies. And secondly, now I know there are several people out here in the audience who were instrumental to some degree in helping secure our new federal courthouse. But there are two individuals who led the fight in getting the money and getting the appropriation. And that's Henry Cuellar, Representative Cuellar from Laredo, and assisted in the House by Will Ward. But the person who, at the end of the day, put the deal together, put the piece of legislation together, and who ultimately secured the funds for which we are grateful, Senator Cornyn, is Senator Cornyn. And our district is blessed to have someone like Senator Cornyn taking care of our interests, for which we are appreciative.
Mr. Chief Judge, may it please the court, thank you for the introduction and thank you for inviting Sandy and I to come back home. And of course, we're glad to see so many familiar friends in the audience. I want to mention among the many friends how good it is to see U.S. Marshal Susan Parmelo, who serves as the law in the Western District. And I want to acknowledge David Pritchard, who chairs the Federal Judicial Evaluation Committee that you will probably hear a little bit more about, that is an essential part of our effort to identify the best and the brightest members of the legal profession to serve in the federal judiciary. Of course, it's an honor always to be with my friend, Chief Judge Orlando Garcia, as we celebrate the newest edition of the Western District of Texas, Jason Pulliam. Over the years, I've attended a number of investitures, as you might imagine, but we've never had quite as many, quite as fast, in such a short period of time as we have in the last 3 years. Since President Trump took office, the Senate has confirmed 190 federal judges, including 2 members of the United States Supreme Court and 20 outstanding Texans. With the investiture of Drew Tipton in the Southern District of Texas, sitting in Corpus Christi, in just a few weeks, we will have filled every single judicial vacancy here in our great state. Well, some people wonder, what does it take to become a federal judge? I think it was Judge Nowlin who said one time, well, first you need to know a United States Senator. He was kidding, of course. It takes a whole lot more than that. But it does take the nomination by the President and confirmation by advice and consent of the United States Senate. These nominees go through incredible background checks and vetting, the most arduous process you can possibly imagine, and given the slow pace at which the Senate operates, many times they are left wondering whether this is actually going to end in a successful conclusion. Well, while it's reason alone to celebrate the putting out of the no vacancy sign when it comes to the federal judiciary here in Texas, I am even more pleased with the caliber and quality of the men and women who have filled these seats. And that's especially true of the man we're honoring today, Judge Pulliam. As the saying goes, he wasn't born here, but he got here as fast as he could. This Brooklyn native found his way to Texas Southern University's Thurgood Marshall School of Law in Houston. And apparently that wasn't enough, so he decided to go on and complete his Marine Corps Officer Candidate School training, and then began his legal career as a judge advocate in the Marine Corps. After completing his military service, Judge Pulliam returned to Texas and served the people of our state well in various judicial capacities. From his time as a criminal defense lawyer to a county court judge here in Bexar County, to the Fourth Court of Appeals, to his pro bono legal work, Judge Pulliam has cemented his reputation for fairness and an unwavering commitment to the rule of law. Those are exactly the right qualities we need in our federal judges. Unlike in my job, where you have to reapply every 6 years, there is no do-over when it comes to federal judges. These are lifetime appointments, so you got to pick the right person the first time. As I said, fortunately, we had a lot of help. Several years ago, the Federal Judicial Evaluation Committee was established by Senator Cruz and myself. It's a bipartisan group of the brightest legal minds in the state who help us identify the best candidates for the federal judiciary, and they have exceeded all expectations. I owe a great deal of gratitude to my friend David Pritchard, who leads the committee, and of course his bipartisan team, who have been working overtime to help Senator Cruz and myself make these recommendations and help these nominees along the confirmation path. Well, I'm just grateful that years ago when we created the Federal Judicial Evaluation Committee, we didn't agree to pay them by the number of vacancies that they fill. Taxpayers are actually getting a great bang for their buck, though, with the committee working entirely on a volunteer basis. Judge Pulliam, I have every confidence that as you continue your judicial service and take your well-deserved spot on the bench, you will confirm all of my expectations for your judicial service. You come into this role at a great time, knowing, of course, as Judge Garcia said, that hopefully you'll have a little bit more comfortable quarters here soon when the new federal courthouse is completed. I still remember, Judge Garcia, the day that a number of leaders here from San Antonio, including the judiciary, came to my office in Washington, D.C., and you said, well, we need a new federal courthouse. And they said, well, do you know that you're number 8 on the list? And we've got to find a way not only to pay for the new federal courthouse in San Antonio, but all the others that are ahead of you in line in order to get it done. So maybe the next time I'm here for another investiture in San Antonio, we'll be enjoying the fruits of those labors, and the number of judges next to me here will be enjoying safe and secure and appropriate offices. So once again, Judge Pulliam, congratulations. Thank you for your willingness to continue to serve your state and our country, and congratulations on your investiture.
Thank you, Senator Pulliam. I'd like to now introduce Fifth Circuit Judge Jerry Smith. Judge Smith has been on the circuit court, I believe, since the early 80s. I'm not sure which precise year. He was appointed by President Reagan. And in addition to being a jurist on that court, he is a member of the Circuit Council. That's a council that assesses the needs and distributes resources to the various district court. And I'm very happy to tell you that Judge Smith has been always instrumental in making sure the Western District is taken care of. Judge Smith.
Chief Judge Garcia, may it please this honorable court, I'm privileged today to represent our Chief Judge Priscilla Owen, who was unable to be here. You may wonder what we do on the Fifth Circuit. The role of an appellate judge has been described like this. He or she sits quietly on a hill watching the litigation raging in the valley below. Then, when the battle is over, the appellate judge walks down into the valley and shoots the wounded. But that's sort of an uncomplimentary description. The fact is that on the Court of Appeals, we get to examine some of the most fascinating and perplexing questions that have confronted judges for decades, such as whether the semicolon goes inside or outside the quotation mark, and whether the term DEA stands for Drug Enforcement Administration or Drug Enforcement Agency. Here in the Western District, you're blessed with exceptionally fine judges who serve with integrity, dedication, and skill. Those of you who attended David Counts' investiture in Midland heard me mention that I have a special affinity for the Western District. I share two important things with your late Chief Judge Emeritus, Lucius Button. We were both born in Del Rio, and we both married good-looking brides named Mary Jane. I have to point out that's two different Mary Janes. Unfortunately, the similarity ends there because Lucius has a courthouse named after him, and I don't. Jason has already been mentioned. You were born in Brooklyn. That's good. I grew up a Brooklyn Dodgers fan. My daddy taught me to love the Dodgers and hate the Yankees. Then you had the good sense to end up in Texas. It's a great day not only for the Western District, but also for Texas Southern University and the Thurgood Marshall School of Law. Thank you, Senator Cordova. Judge Pulliam, I look forward to grading your papers. And from all accounts, you're already making straight A's. Welcome to Article 3. Although you lose your First Amendment rights and work even harder than before, at least now the lawyers laugh at your jokes. See what I mean? And in case you're curious, the semicolon goes outside the quotation mark. And although there are 378 Fifth Circuit opinions that refer to something called the Drug Enforcement Agency, no such entity exists. Judge Pulliam, congratulations.
Thank you, Judge Smith. Now I'll introduce a local esteemed member of the bar, David Pritchard, who is chair of the Senator's Evaluation Committee for the Judicial Selection. And as the Senator mentioned, they're not paid positions, and actually, David should be charging somebody for the number of hours and days that he has given to the judiciary, and David, we're grateful for that. Mr. Pritchard.
Chief Judge Garcia, Judge Pulliam, Senator Cornyn, Mrs. Cornyn, distinguished members of the judiciary, honored guests, family, and friends, good afternoon. My name is David Pritchard. I practice law here in San Antonio, and I have for the last 40 years. Also, until a few weeks ago, I happened to office right next door to Judge Pulliam. He was my next door neighbor in the office. He was a terrific office mate, an excellent lawyer, but first and foremost, a wonderful human being. Tell you the truth, we miss you. But life goes on. Pastor Ray, I believe the good Lord has a big plan for Judge Pulliam. Nevertheless, we have to look forward and not always look back. So in that spirit, Judge Pulliam, I have all of your junk mail that has accumulated. So if you took time to read the program and listen to the kind words of Senator Cornyn and Chief Judge Garcia, I am blessed to chair the Federal Judicial Evaluation Committee. And what the heck is that, Brother Richard? That's a group of roughly 30 or so lawyers from around the state who interview and recommend to our two U.S. Senators, Senator Cornyn and Senator Cruz, men and women to serve on 3 positions. United States attorneys for our 4 districts, like U.S. Attorney Bash. Secondly, United States district judges who sit throughout the state of Texas, like Judge Pulliam. And finally, federal circuit judges from Texas who sit on the 5th Circuit Court of Appeals based in New Orleans, like Judge Smith, who you just heard from. And it would be remiss of me, I know there are at least 3 members of my committee who are here today, and with permission, Your Honor, I'd like to take just a second. If you hold your applause, I would like to introduce those 3 individuals. You've already been introduced to former United States Congressman, Texas Railroad Commissioner, and until recently, the Chancellor of the Texas Tech University System, and now Chancellor Emeritus of Texas Tech University, a great American, Ken Hans. Ken, can you stand up? In the audience today, he gets an award for coming the longest distance. He's an outstanding trial lawyer in Lubbock, Texas, and he's currently the president of the Board of Trustees of the Lubbock Independent School District, Mr. Zach Brady. Zach, where are you? Thank you, Zach. And last but not least, a San Antonio native, my former law partner, and also a former Chief Justice of the Texas Supreme Court, who immediately succeeded Chief Justice Phillips, Justice Wallace Jefferson. Chief, are you here? Yep. So this is a flavor of the type of public servants that Senator Cornyn and Senator Cruz appoint to their committee. And it is a pleasure to serve this group. So how did Jason Pulliam become a federal judge? It is a grueling and sometimes lonely process. Days and weeks would go by. I'd get to work and Jason would stick his head in and he'd say, "Hey David," I didn't say that, he always called me Mr. Pritchard, which I told him not to do. "Hey Mr. Pritchard, have you heard anything from Washington?" "No, Jason, I haven't." "Have you heard anything from Washington?" "Well, no, I haven't." And let me just tell you, that makes it hard. It makes it hard on lawyers who are practicing law. It makes it hard whether or not to take that next case. It makes it hard to make plans for your family. In Justice Pulliam's case, we had dozens of very well-qualified individuals who aspired to have the bench that Judge Pulliam now applies. And the way it works is he has to fill out a comprehensive application where we ask all types of personal and professional questions. He has to fill that out within 30 days, as do all the applicants. And then the committee looks looks at all those applications, votes on the applications, and makes a recommendation to Senator Cornyn and Senator Cruz as to who should be interviewed by our committee. They make that decision, and then we interview, out of the dozens who apply, the top 2 or 3 people. So after that round with the committee, we make recommendations again, back to the senators, and then the senators.
Chief Justice Garcia, very honorable court, and please the court. It is indeed a privilege for me to stand and make remarks this afternoon about a boy that became a man. So bear with me. So when a man sets foot on the stage of life, he is called to account for himself. He has to account within his family, in his neighborhood, in his school, and later perhaps in jobs and hope and positions that he holds. Within the family, the question sometimes is, he's just like his dad, or he's just like his mother. And that adds validity to who this person is. In the neighborhood and at the church, you may hear, that's Charles and Catherine's boy. Adds validity to who the person is. But when he moves into a position of significance, the question rings loud. Curious onlookers and critics demand to know, who is this man? Where did he come from? What are his connections, political otherwise? And how did he get this lofty position? Still others might ask, where did he come from? What schools did he attend? New York, did you say? Some may even ask, who did he get to know to such a position as when the answer to get to this position? When no other answer satisfies, they'll always say, he was just lucky. It's just luck, they say. While these questions and the answer to the real question is, it confronts us, these concerns have been the same kind of questions that have confronted every federal judge and every man in a position of responsibility. But for my part, even the best answers that we can give do not recognize unseen events and experiences